Dragon Ball always uses the expectation of a fight to drive the story forward. But many times, who's involved in the fight changes, the fight gets interrupted, or the story simply drops it altogether halfway through. Stick with me until the end of the video so you can understand everything about this. What's up everyone? How's it going? Welcome back to Dragon Dao. A fight doesn't always have to be officially announced for the audience to expect it. A lot of the time, the idea is planted in our heads because of a rivalry, or simply because of the direction the story is taking. So today we're going to talk about some of those fights the story teased, that fans wanted to see, but that never happened. After Master Roshi and Chaozu die confronting King Piccolo, Tienne begins training to face him. But knowing that things would be difficult in terms of power, he dedicates himself to learning the evil containment wave so he can seal away the Demon King. Tienne spends the entire night training, and when morning comes, he finally manages to master the technique. He then heads toward King Piccolo to complete his mission. When he gets there, Tienne challenges the villain. But when he goes to grab the pot he was going to use for the sealing, he realizes that it had cracked during his training, and because of that, he wouldn't be able to seal King Piccolo. But Tienne says he didn't need the evil containment wave to win and goes down to face him anyway. Except King Piccolo doesn't even bother fighting him and creates Drum to take care of him. Drum proves to be stronger than Tienne, and just as he's about to kill him, Goku arrives, saves Tienne, and kills Drum, taking over the fight from that point on. And just like that, the fight between Tienne and King Piccolo never happened. Tienne never got to use the technique he had prepared to use, and he didn't even get to directly face the opponent he wanted to fight. After winning the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament, Goku didn't let anyone kill Piccolo because he didn't want Kami to die as well, but also because he enjoyed the fight they had and wanted to keep having a rival. After recovering, Piccolo says he would let the matter go for the time being, but that he would soon come back to defeat Goku and conquer the world. So a promise was made, a rematch between Piccolo and the man who killed his father and then beat him in the tournament. But 5 years passed between the end of the tournament and the beginning of the Z era, and that rematch never happened during that time. And with Raditz's arrival and the unexpected alliance, the two had to form against him. That promised fight ended up naturally fading away as the characters developed, going from enemies to allies. When the Saiyans arrive on Earth, they don't even bother fighting the Z fighters themselves. They plant 6 seeds in the ground, and 6 creatures immediately emerge from them. Krillin, Gohan, and Piccolo were outnumbered, but Yamcha, Tien, and Chaozu arrived just in time. So Vegeta decided they would fight one-on-one. Tien has the first fight and easily beats the Cyberman. The second fight was Yamcha's. It was more evenly matched, but Yamcha managed to win. However, he ended up getting distracted and was caught by the Cyberman, who self-destructed and killed him. Naturally, things moved on to the next fight, but Krillin gets furious over Yamcha's death and decides to use his special attack, targeting all the enemies at once. 3 Cybermen were killed by that attack, and 1 was killed by Piccolo shortly afterward. So Vegeta's games never got to play out all the way to the end, because the 4 remaining individual fights never happened. Moving on to Namek, the Z fighters were trying to get the Dragon Balls while caught in the crossfire between Frieza's men and Vegeta, who just kept getting stronger. After having his hidden power unlocked by the Grand Elder, Krillin decides to take Gohan there as well. According to him, if his own power had increased that much, maybe Gohan's power could rival Vegeta's. Not long before that, Vegeta had run into Gohan and beaten the kid up. So everything seemed to be setting up a rematch and a much tougher fight between the two Saiyans. Then, just as Vegeta was also arriving at the Grand Elder's house, Gohan had his power awakened, which got Krillin excited and made Vegeta believe that the person hiding inside was actually Goku. Gohan comes out of the house ready to face Vegeta. But at that exact moment, everyone starts sensing the Ginyu Force's ki as they arrive on the planet. And with that, the arrival of the Ginyu Force completely swallowed up the fight between the two Saiyans, forcing them to join forces from that point on. As soon as Vegeta, Krillin, and Gohan left, the Grand Elder said he would be fine and told Nail to go help the Earthlings in the fight, but that never happened. On the way there, Nail changes his mind and decides to go back to protect the Grand Elder. And just like that, one of the most interesting fights of the saga never happened. Nail had a power level of 42,000, which was right around the estimated power level of Rikum, Jace, and Berter. So with his help, the group might have been able to take down a few more of them besides Guldo. But the story changed direction and stopped Nail from reaching the battlefield in order to put the spotlight on Goku's last-minute arrival and his new power. While Goku was recovering in the healing chamber, Frieza finally found the Z Fighters and promised to make them pay for everything they had done. But despite how afraid they all were, Vegeta changes his attitude and says he wouldn't be defeated that easily. He claims that if they fought together, they could take Frieza on. Frieza charges at Vegeta, but surprisingly, Vegeta manages to stop his attack, and Frieza says there seemed to be a little truth to Vegeta's words. Then Gohan and Krillin start to believe that they might actually be able to fight him if they work together. But before the real fight between them could actually happen, Vegeta tells Frieza to transform. Frieza is surprised that Vegeta knows about that, and says that since they wanted to die so badly, he would do it. For dozens of chapters, from King Kai's reaction to Krillin and Gohan's reaction when they saw him, Frieza's first form had been built up as an absolute monster, and the reveal of his 530,000 power level only confirmed all of that. But in the end, a real fight between Frieza's first form and the Z Fighters working together never happened. Frieza never used all of his power and never fought seriously in his first form, since Vegeta clearly showed that he was putting in much more effort than Frieza during that brief clash. We never got to see the Z Fighters manage to hold their own against him, or actually pressure him into transforming into his second form. In actual combat, the first form was discarded even faster than the forgettable third form. This is the perfect example of a phase being skipped because the story wanted to speed up the transformation escalation. And before we continue, if you're finding this video interesting, I'd like to ask you to consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel so we can reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. I'd really appreciate it. Frieza survives the destruction of Namek, has his body mechanically rebuilt, and travels to Earth with his father to get revenge on Goku. Frieza says he wouldn't destroy the planet before Goku arrived. He thinks he could beat Goku even on his own, and King Cold says they would use any means necessary to defeat the Super Saiyan. Everything sets up a rematch, but then Trunks shows up and kills Frieza and King Cold before Goku arrives. It works very well as Trunks' introduction, but it completely cancels the expected rematch. In Trunks' timeline, Goku actually was the one who fought them, but we never got to see that fight either. When Piccolo arrives on the battlefield on Namek, he says that after defeating Frieza, he would take care of Vegeta. But we all know what happened after that. Later on, after Trunks' warning, Piccolo tells everyone that he didn't want anyone getting in the way of the fight against the androids. Vegeta then questions Piccolo's confidence and gets a direct provocation in return, with Piccolo asking if he wanted to test it himself. But then Goku steps in and no fight happens there. Later, during the fight against Android 20, Piccolo tells Vegeta not to dare interfere. All of these lines helped build up the tension that already existed between them. But later on, when Vegeta gets angry and yells at him, Piccolo no longer responds the way he normally would, even though he was stronger than Vegeta at that point. And from that point on, especially on Vegeta's side, their relationship starts to become more respectful. In the anime, there's also that funny jab from Vegeta telling Piccolo that he hadn't changed at all after training in the Room of Spirit and Time, but it never went beyond that. The rivalry between Piccolo and Vegeta was always implied throughout the series, but unfortunately, the series never gave us that fight. When the tournament in the Buu Saga begins, the first point of tension quickly appears. Shin and Kibito, two mysterious beings, and the tournament draw pits them directly against the Z Fighters, starting with Piccolo versus Shin. Piccolo steps into the ring, but he simply can't bring himself to attack him, wondering who he was. Shin reads his mind and says that he would find out soon enough, but for now they should enjoy the fight. Except the fight never happens, because Piccolo freezes up and forfeits before a single blow is exchanged. And even to this day, that decision still leaves fans wondering. Did Piccolo give up simply because he realized Shin was a higher ranking deity? Or was he actually not powerful enough to face him? The tournament continued with Videl versus Spopovich. And even though the girl did well at first, in the end she ended up taking a brutal beating. Gohan rushes to help her as soon as she's thrown out of the ring and tells Spopovich that he would make him pay for it. Videl asks him to beat Spopovich, and Gohan says he would, because based on the tournament bracket, he would face Spopovich after winning his next fight. But as we all know, that revenge never happened. And that's because when it's time for Gohan to fight Kibito, before anything else, Kibito asks Gohan to transform into a Super Saiyan. Gohan is a little confused, but Piccolo signals for him to go ahead with the transformation. Then Gohan is attacked by Yamu and Spopovich and has his energy stolen. Because of that, several interesting fights that had been set up by the tournament are discarded because of the new threat, except for Goku versus Vegeta, which ends up happening in a different context. When Vados and Champa arrive on Beerus' planet, Goku and Vegeta are intrigued by them. Vados explains that Champa was Beerus' twin brother and the god of destruction of Universe 6. Goku asks which of the two was stronger, and Vados says it was easy to tell just by looking at Champa. Then she also takes the opportunity to say that she was Whis' sister and a little stronger than him. It was objects from a distance, saying that it had already been 1,000 years since they had trained together. Vados then laughs and asks if he didn't want to put that to the test. But as soon as we turn the page, Beerus is the one who speaks up, and they completely change the subject and start talking about food. And just like that, the series never clarifies which of the two angels is currently stronger without even showing them training together. Wanting to show future Zeno what a tournament was like, the Grand Priest tells all the gods of destruction to start a battle royale in the arena. Before it begins, Kitella tells Beerus that this was a great opportunity for them to settle who was stronger between the two of them, since Beerus refused to accept that Kitella was stronger just because he had beaten him in an arm wrestling match. Beerus says he wouldn't lose in hand-to-hand combat. When the fight begins, all the gods gang up on Beerus, but we never actually get to see any exchange of blows between him and Kitella. In the end, the two of them are the only ones left standing. And just when they were finally about to fight each other directly and settle things once and for all, the Grand Priest steps in and stops the fight with just one finger. This had everything: rivalry, provocation, a previous clash controversial as it may have been, and a fight that was just about to begin. But it was immediately interrupted, leaving the question of which of the two is stronger unanswered to this day. The Granola saga is practically built around the expectation of a fight. Granola's race was exterminated by the Saiyans under Frieza's orders. And knowing that Frieza had died and the Saiyans had also been wiped out when their planet exploded, Granola no longer had any targets left for his revenge. But Elec tells him that Frieza had come back to life. Granola confronting Frieza was exactly what Elec had in mind when he gave him that information. Granola gathers the Dragon Balls and sacrifices almost his entire remaining lifespan to become the strongest warrior in the universe and get revenge on Frieza. But from that point on, he spends the entire saga fighting Goku, Vegeta, and Gas. Frieza has absolutely no involvement in the events of the saga. When he finally shows up near the very end, he kills Gas and Elec, knocks out Goku and Vegeta, and leaves. There isn't even a single interaction between Granola and him. It was such an explicit promise of a fight that the character literally traded away his own life for it. But Granola never exchanged a single blow with Frieza. Those were 14 fights that Dragon Ball promised but never delivered. And now I want to hear from you. What do you think about all of this? Can you remember any other promised fights that didn't make it onto this list? Leave your opinion in the comments below. If you made it this far, you must have enjoyed the video. So I want to ask you to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to keep following discussions like this. And here on the screen, 2 more videos will show up that I'm sure you'll like. See you in the next video right here on Dragon Dao.